joining us now, and good to have him back again. We've got a lot to talk about, as always. Congressman Rob Wittman. He's also the chairman of the subcommittee on sea power in the United States, and he's a Republican, represents the 1st District of Virginia. Rob Wittman, good to have you with us. We're having too much fun today. It's not right. I shouldn't have this much fun over this deal the president made. So, Congressman, tell me I'm wrong.
Well, John, this is where we find ourselves, and the president, like many of us, have said, these things need to get done, and the opportunity that Congress had over the past 6 weeks. Remember, we've just come back off of the longest recess in a non-election year in the history of Congress. And we come back with not having any of these things done. None of the appropriations bills done. The debt ceiling not taken care of. To come back, and now on top of this, for the president to have to deal with Hurricane Harvey relief, and now the upcoming storm of Hurricane Irma, the president's about getting things done. And John, I've talked about this. Congress had its opportunity. It's had its opportunity. If the leadership kept us there in August for this to get done, then the president and the Congress wouldn't have faced this last-minute effort to try to get things done. And the president, he's a get-things-done kind of guy. He says, listen, I'm looking at this. I'm seeing these kinds of things. I know that these things need to get done. We have this hurricane bearing down on us. We have the Hurricane Harvey victims. We need to get this done. Boom, I'm getting it done. So, listen, he's a no-nonsense kind of guy that just says, this is what I've got. I'm cutting through all the baloney. You guys had your chance. You didn't stay in town in August. Here it is. It's done.
Wow, that is so spot on. And I got to tell you, Congressman, you are so right about the recess. I mean, everybody goes home. They don't do anything. You will call for them to stay. There's no budget. I mean, and one of the reasons, people in his staff was arguing for a longer CR extension. And he said, no, I don't want to do that because we need a budget. I mean, you just can't go in perpetuity with these CRs. Plus, you got sequestration. Plus, this is the other thing. He knew that if there was a debate about shutting the government down, he was going to ensure that the Democrats win Virginia. Game over. He knew that. So it's like, I don't want to deal with that. I want to give those guys a chance to win that state. I don't want to get in the middle of it. So he did that. But look, and he said, I got 90 days. I want a budget, and I want to get tax reform done. So we know we're not going to get a budget because you haven't done a budget since what? Nixon? I mean, I can't remember the last time he had a budget, right? Jimmy Carter, maybe.
Yeah, and we haven't. And it's been over 30 years since we've got all the appropriations bills done on time. So, yeah, the record has not been a good one.
No, so here's my question. We have 90 days. I happen to believe that the president's tax reform initiative can be historic, and it can change the American economy as we know it today and get us, I think, to 4.5% if we can get this done. But we only have a 90-day window. Do we have any chance of getting tax reform done within this 90-day window?
John, I think we do. I think there's been a lot of very productive conversation, a lot of substantive movement on putting ideas together, different than what has happened with some of the other big things we've had before us, like healthcare and others. I do think that there's right there before us the opportunity to get this done. There's been a framework of this that's been put together. There has been coordination and discussion and agreement between the White House, the House, and the Senate. I think this is one of those have to get it done moments. I think the president realizes that. I agree, too. I think part of this, not only in the immediacy of him feeling things need to get done with appropriations, with debt ceiling, with Hurricane Harvey and Hurricane Irma, but also to clear the deck for tax reform. I think the focus over the next 90 days is going to be solely on getting tax reform out of the House and Senate. And I do believe that there have been lessons learned by everybody across the spectrum and what we went through with healthcare reform, and that we're not going to repeat those same scenarios as we get substantive tax reform done. I'm not talking about nibbling around the edges. This has to be substantive, John, and it has to be significant. And I think we've got one of those generational opportunities here to get this done and get it done in a meaningful way, both on the corporate reform side and on the individual reform side. And I think it can have a tremendously positive impact on our economy. And I think the president sees that as well as folks in the House and Senate. And needing to get this done is an urgency that I'm understanding in my conversations with people is in the forefront of their minds.
Okay. Chance for tax reform, 90 days. I thought your analysis, Dr. Wittman, once again, just spot on. In fact, you got a text here from John Whitbeck who says, typical awesomeness from Rob Wittman. So you got your whole fan base out there. So Trump yesterday saying, okay, well, if North Korea shoots up a missile, I'm going to shoot it down. You know, we've been trying to deal with these people for a very long time, and it's tough to do. Can we live with a nuclearized North Korea if we become convinced, Mr. Chairman, that they have these nukes as a deterrent and in order to prevent any attempt by the U.S. to initiate regime change?
John, I don't think that we can tolerate or allow North Korea to have a long-range nuclear weapon. I mean, they already have a medium-range nuclear weapon that is capable of holding at risk their neighbors, Japan, South Korea, Guam, our U.S. territory. And I just visited the region, so I understand and have have sensed through conversations with leaders in those countries their apprehension with what's going on. If Kim Jong-un can hold the United States at risk with a nuclear weapon, that emboldens him, empowers him, and with the unpredictability that we've seen from him, I think it's a situation where the United States will constantly be looking over its shoulder as to what he will do and what he will try to extract from the United States and others. I just don't think that we can allow that to happen. We had a good briefing at the beginning of the week with Secretary Tillerson, Secretary Mattis, Chairman Dunford, and Director Coates of the full spectrum of what we're dealing with North Korea. I am very confident in their strategy and what they are doing with North Korea, as well as Ambassador Haley. They are doing, I think, everything possible, both strategically and diplomatically, to stop North Korea from their continued pursuit of a long-range nuclear weapon. And one of the elements there is what you have to do in dealing with China. China has to be the central part of this. China's been reticent to go in and do the things necessary to really squeeze North Korea to get them to stop this. You're not going to get them, I think, to give up their nuclear weapons. But if you can halt them in where they are right now with the development of the nuclear weapons, that would be a major victory. So I think policy-wise that the cabinet members, Ambassador Haley, there with the Trump administration, are putting together the right pieces to be successful with this now. And the good thing too is they're not taking the military options off the table. I can tell you the military options are ones that are significant, not just for the United States but for the region. And I say significant as far as what would happen with any type of military engagement. We're talking about catastrophic loss of life in those situations, not anything that we want to find ourselves in. But, on the other side, with North Korea being able to threaten the United States, the same catastrophic loss of life scenarios if they were to launch a nuclear weapon towards the United States.
So I know you can't share anything because of it's classified, but have you actually been briefed? I mean, do you, without saying what any of the stuff is, are you in a position, do you actually know the potential plans that we have? Have you seen that with your own eyes?
I have. I've seen we have a set of operational plans on what we will do in certain scenarios. I have seen those for the Korean Peninsula. Those things I think are extraordinarily well planned out. I think we have the full capability there, as I said. None of those scenarios are good ones, especially since you try to predict what Kim Jong-un's response would be. And remember, he has a tremendous amount of conventional forces in the area, too. Many of those conventional forces are focused on Seoul, one of the largest cities in the world. So we know what the outcome of that conventional engagement would be there, and it would be significant. But we do, I think, have good strategies and the things that we can do and will do in that particular region. As you know, we had a hearing yesterday, John, concerning these recent collisions with our Navy ships in the area, which we have our Navy ships that do ballistic missile defense there, which protect the United States and allied nations in the region from a potential nuclear missile launch there, to be able to shoot those missiles down. Two of those ships now, because of collisions, are not available now. We're bringing in other ships to be able to plug that gap, but that, creates gaps elsewhere. So that's another challenging thing that we are having to deal with because of these recent ship collisions, and the Navy has to address that. Our hearing yesterday went into depth about what the Navy is going to do, and I give them credit, they were very frank and candid about what led to those events, revealing everything that they know to this point, and admitting that by any measure it's unacceptable for our ships to have ships run into them, and for the operations that we've seen in the inadequacies there for that to happen. So I was encouraged that the Navy has been admitting their problems and being willing to take them on and get things corrected.
Honesty is the best policy. We're out of time. I want to thank Rob Wittman for being with us. He chairs the House Armed Services Subcommittee on Sea Power and Projection Forces, Republican District 1 in Virginia, and represents kind of the Fredericksburg area and up through the neck and things like that. Great guy. Thanks for being with us, Rob. More information, whitman.house.gov, whitman.house.gov. Rob, always a pleasure to have you on. Please give my best to Catherine, your lovely bride, and we will see you next week, sir.